Good morning. My name is Ellie Blair White, and I've come to you this morning in wearing next to nothing because everything that I have, that I own, was stolen and or sold in order to bring you this video. In fact, that's why I'm making this video, to bring this to your attention, because if somebody went into my house and stole down to my very underwear or shoes or coats or other things that are family value trinkets only, then obviously someone wanted to demoralize me so that you would never hear this story. So if you are intelligent enough to pick up on those cues, you will hopefully listen to the very end, because I have literally paid with every single thing in my life in order to bring you this information. And that includes, 128 million and 39 properties which were taken in order to devastate me, silence me, and hopefully cause me to, quote, commit suicide after their numerous murder attempts on me failed. Now, since I was the #1 graduate in the world in economics in 2005, every country in the world should be interested not just in the knowledge I possess, because I don't have 1.5 million documents, but what I have is here. And I've analyzed intel ops and such from all over the world that whole countries never were able to figure out, and so was invited to go and study at any country I wanted in the world, read whatever I wanted for 6 months, 400, 450 pages a day, and then analyze the operations of whichever battle I chose to analyze, because my brain works better than computers who are designed by AI persons, giving them instruction to do whatever you want, and you have no moral requirements or laws, as in spooky famous movies. They're told just go on your own and do whatever you want to do. And it's very clear by the images and such that they come up with that they understand our background, our mentality, and what their desired outcomes are supposed to be. So even though they haven't been programmed with certain instructions, they will come out what they think we are. So the little pictures they come out with that happen to look like our military aircraft are no short amazement. Now, back to our story. Who stole everything that I have? All of my properties and everything, right down to the last 50 cents to my name. Who is it who has been trying to freeze me to death for 7 winters? Who has sent numerous people to make hit attempts on me? All which have a very mysterious correlation, which you'll see at the end of this video. Now, if this video shuts off for any reason, there will be several videos in a sequence necessary to provide you with all the information. Now, some of that information are in these 4 books, which can be found on CreateSpace under Egar White, the 1%, the new land fraud scheme of the 1%, conspiracy series, banking bailout fraud scheme exposed, Revelations, a commentary to understanding end times prophecies, very relevant today, and an analysis of the terrorist massacre in Paris, Bataclan, and sociology of a terror cell. All 4 of these can be found on CreateSpace as books. There's actually 12 in 7 languages, but if you grab these 4, you will have a very serious leg up on understanding certain events that are going on right now, including what and who created terror cells to begin with, how they operate, how they function, and what their end desired goal is for your country. And it doesn't matter who's watching. We get all the information on those 2 details in these 2 books right here. So, how did this start? Well, I was a single mom in Wisconsin, and yes, Scott Walker did call me asking about whether or not he should run for presidency, and I said, don't you dare. I'll show up on the White House steps, and I will tell everyone how you allowed 20,000 families in your state to have their property stolen and seized from them. We're not talking about eminent domain. That was too long and pesky of a process. We'll just outright steal 20,000 families' properties. And we're not talking about a cute little $50,000 house on a corner that nobody wants. We're talking properties that average a value of $10 to $12 million per property. Yes, that should perk up some Republicans' ears, because as we know, Republicans like Zine and Scott run under oftentimes Democratic tickets for a time because they feel that they can appeal more to the people that live in those areas, even though their agendas are absolutely and completely Republican in nature. So here you have a single mom who's in the middle of Wisconsin, and I earned that $128 million, $40 every other week, invested properly. And to build it up to $128 million and be the #1 person in economics in the world graduated with highest honors in 2005 and also simultaneously graduated in the School of Business at CSUF, why are they not hiring me? Well, maybe because the thefts were intended to silence me so that I would boo-hoo in a corner and never make it to court. However, I was handed a court case of trying to save my family farm when the attorney who was paid in full up front admitted to receiving 10 cases as wins to throw me under the bus, and that he had taken $335,000 in a bribe to disappear my case. Well, he got a slap on the wrist as he admitted this in court of not being able to practice law for a year, in which time he should go back and take ethics classes to not become confused on how to treat people. Well, after getting 10 automatic wins on his subsequent 10 cases and $335,000 in cash as a bribe, what he got was a year's vacation. Okay? I pointed out in those documents that certain individuals that were around me at the time were paid to abandon me and get lost, that they might not become involved or be giving assistance to me in these endeavors. So yes, I fought this as a woman all entirely on my own. Now, what happened is 100 average changes, forgeries, and frauds were committed per each document on one farm. Okay, and the agent, who was my initial loan agent, came to me at a family gathering in front of many witnesses and said that they intended to give me this loan in order to spend the $400,000 in retirement savings that I had deposited and invested on my own. And they would wait until all that money was spent, and then they would seize the property from me in a 5-year period of time to commit the development which they intended. And I begged, please let me finish, the 10 years that it would take to get my kid through school. And then I have a developer who was ready to gift me $2.5 million, and I will do the development. Let my kids grow up in a cute little farm family environment as intended, and then I'll develop it with this other friend. They said, no. They want this guy to develop it, and they won't wait. He wants to have it developed in 5 years, and he will steal it from you. And I have pictures on many different places of the text messages the individual sent me saying that I would be found to have been committed suicide. Sorry, but that's not in my moral beliefs. I would never do that, and if I am discovered dead by any reason, I would hope that persons would open an investigation into this and discover that David H. Wogernies Wasserman Schultz committed this fraud against me. Yes, that's a very familiar name, because after he sold my farm, he took $3,300,000 and paid it to our old best friend, Ms. Clinton. $300,000 paid to secure his sis or family member or whatever, Debbie, the DNC chairman seat. And the other $3 million was paid to her that if she won, Debbie would have become our new Secretary of State. Isn't that cool? So my family was sold and then used in a pay-for-play, which didn't happen. So can I have my money back? It's absolutely absurd what they've done, but they took trucks and hired guys and had them driving around, chasing us through cornfields with shotguns aimed at us to kill us or threaten us or terrorize us. Gee, that's a new word we haven't heard these days. And then they ran over me with a truck, we won't say what vehicle, at a shopping store center. And I ended up having emergency back surgery and suffered a massive stroke, for which they refused to give me adequate treatment, although Mayo Clinics called me and said, you either have massive MS or you've had the worst stroke we've ever seen and you need to get down here immediately. And, all of a sudden, a week or so later, the individual which ran me over with this truck and caused this injury donated a couple of mil to the hospital where I had the surgery, and voila, the new wing is named for him. Although the doctor, Mr. Swanson, did come to me and give me some direction on some other hospitals who could assist me in future surgeries. So I paid dearly for this. Now immobilized and having numerous cuts to the spinal cord area, I was immobilized on a concrete floor without a pillow, with this feeling of a horrible sledgehammer crashing into my head because they had cut into the spinal cord area and I was leaking fluid from that area. They thought if I raised my head and elevated the pressure, that the nervous system fluids in the brain would be pushed down the spinal cord out of this hole and I would die. So here I am laying on a floor, unable, except to be picked up and carried for bathrooming twice a day, laying there helpless on the floor. My kid is sleeping on a sleeping bag next to me, falling asleep watching movies every night, and guys all of a sudden jump through the living room windows over our couch to my right with guns, screaming, yelling, flashing the weapons around, and then run out the back door, terrorizing an immobile handicapped woman and a 9-year-old little girl. Like, these people have absolutely no moral scruples or feelings whatsoever in these incredibly heinous acts which they committed against me. They proceeded then, in a series of about every 2 to 3 weeks, burglarizing both of our farms. Sometimes on the same day, within a 2.5-hour period, both places would become burglarized. Technically impossible. Now, the real estate agent, Wayne Peters from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, was found to have his DNA inside both homes. Although we did meet with him in Eau Claire, 90 miles away, to sign papers to sell some acreage, not a home, never saw him at our property, never had him in our house. How is his DNA inside both houses after both houses were broken into during a 2.5-hour period, which we were not at the house and had notified him, don't bring any people on these days because we'll be out, for those couple hours. Although we had been at home every day, except for church time, for, a couple years. Which brings us to the second item of interest. First of all, in that burglary with Mr. Peters, we were contacted after several ads were placed about town by a snitch who said he had been harassed in certain areas and was conducting break-ins for certain law enforcement persons, and that he knew where some of the jewelry was that had been at both locations. So we went down to a pawn shop across the street from Shipshape Car Wash in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and we identified 2 entire sets of jewelry out of the 3 that I had ordered, which were matching sets for myself, my daughter, and my sister. 2 of them are sitting in the case at this shop. We called law enforcement. Eau Claire police arrived, and the man, store owner, went into the back and immediately called Chippewa Falls police, and they spoke with the Eau Claire police and said, "Get out of there. This case is our jurisdiction, even though we're in Eau Claire, and shop in Eau Claire, spot jewelry that was stolen. Eau Claire police are there. They're told to leave because Chippewa Falls sheriff demanded jurisdiction," which there was no investigation ever carried into any of those items. Meanwhile, back at the farm, our brand new riding lawnmower was stolen and prominently displayed in a gentleman's house about a mile west of us that operates a turkey raising farm in basically a port. It was a garage with 3 sides missing, a little bit on a rise, 50 feet from the road, and very clearly visible. A couple months after the theft, officers arrived at our location, saw that year's brand new model parked in our garage, and came in screaming and yelling and threatening to arrest me because an item I had declared as stolen was parked right there. Well, actually, the one that was stolen was the 3-year-old model, and the one that was parked there was that year's model. Could not have been the one that was stolen, in other words. And when we gave them the location of the one that had been stolen, that was prominently displayed at a neighbor's house down the way, that gentleman, after having trauma experienced in his own family, decided to set me and my son up in the woods during a hunting operation and placed us behind bushes, either one on different side of a river, and directed us, when I yell at these deer to run down this ravine, "You're going to shoot," hoping that one of us would kill the other, inflict the other with serious guilt, and he'd be able to run off with a brand new son, my son. He hasn't touched a weapon since. He was so completely traumatized when both of us realized that he intended one of us to kill the other. And this is the man that stole the riding mower that lived next door to another gentleman who was convicted of certain pedophile violations, never told us any of this, and volunteered to come over and help us with basically castrating our baby male pigs after they were born. And we had no idea that this individual was actually casing my children and myself for a very probable imminent abuse. We took our case to court, and as the lawyer who admitted to having received $335,000 bribe to throw our case walked out of the courtroom, we requested of the judge that he give us some time to get an attorney, and the judge denied our request and said, "Well, you knew about this hearing, so let's just go on with it. We're going to have the trial today." Okay. In the meantime of us discovering what this attorney had done, we had served on numerous parties of the attorney, the bank involved, which was M&I Bank, Marvin Schmidt, its head officer, all the branches involved, affidavits to come and testify at court, the full story of which is in this conspiracy series book. It's done in a screen script format with the exact conversations of all the officers exactly as it happened in court. And we requested interrogatories, long-listed questions for each individual. We requested an accounting of how the bank had taken payments and supplied our monies. We requested copies of documents, which they said were in their possession that we had never signed, so we knew were forged. And not one single item was complied with, and yet we were forced to go to court on that day. So we're going to cut this video short right here, and we're going to go into that details in video number 2. Thank you so much. Again, this is Ellie White, and you can contact me anytime at buffalostudy@yahoo.com, or if you'd like to contribute, paypal.me/buffalostudy@yahoo.com. Ellie Blair White, reporting to you. Look for me on the next video right now.